It is the wrap-up show of NSIC Week. And Matt Witwicky, what's the matter? Did you forget
Technical
to add me
issues
to
once
the
again.
stream?
They're always trying to put us off to the side and like trying to put us in our own little box over there.
It's sort of like Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts baby in a corner, man.
Apparently,
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
We've been put in the corner twice.
Tom and Witt here for the last time. For me, this is the final time you'll see my unruly mop of hair. Witt's still got some podcasts to do before the end of the season. The playoffs begin next weekend. The pairings were announced yesterday. We'll uncover that for you here in a little bit. But first, Witt, there was some breaking news in the last hour in the league.
The league is all about giving us breaking news before our show goes live, isn't it?
Yeah, Concordia St. Paul parting company with Shannon Courier, who guided them over two different stints. He's been with the program off and on since the 1990s. Was head coach from 2000 to 03, won an NSIC championship back in the aughts, left for greener pastures, or so he thought at the time, Truman State of Missouri, came back, has been on the sideline in St. Paul since 2016, but after a 2-9 season this year and a 56-87 record over his stay in the Twin Cities, Shannon Courier is out as head coach at Concordia St. Paul. That is the top news of the evening.
Yeah, and you know what, Tom? Shannon's a really good guy, always super accommodating for me over the years, and I feel for him because there was times where I thought maybe they weren't getting the same level of resources or other things that maybe everyone else, the teams that are doing strong in the conference might be doing, and that's a real thing. And I thought that I kept waiting for them to kind of break out, Tom, after COVID, and it just never really happened. And you're defined in this profession by wins and losses, and that's just kind of where we're at right now. But too bad to see it, but it's just kind of the nature of this profession.
Quick off the cuff comment here. Just think there are any other potential coaching changes in the league before 2026?
None that I can think of. Nothing's really jumping out at me.
Okay.
I haven't heard any thoughts about movement for others or anything of that sort. So nothing here. I'm sure we'll see a whole lot in the D2 landscape. I mean, there's some in some surrounding areas that are being whispered, but I think we'll probably see some of those coming out in the next few days.
All right. The big news of the show was released yesterday from the NCAA out in Indianapolis. The D2 field of 32 was announced, and for Super Region 3, the NSIC has 2 entrants.
Yeah, and this is probably going to be noteworthy for those who weren't kind of tied to to their Twitter or to their social media or whatever they use to get their news yesterday. But Tom, you and I kind of talked about this coming into this week that if Augustana lost, they were probably out. I felt that if Mankato lost, they could still make it in because of their strength of schedule and their KPI numbers. And we did see that play out for a second straight year, frankly, where they lost in their final game, but yet still got on in, which was something to create a lot of tension amongst people in the Northern Sun world. And I understand it. And then Moorhead, who beat Mankato head to head, but still is way down in regards to KPI numbers, Tom. But when we go ahead and we look at this, I completely understand. We've got the numbers, Tom, and the criteria that we have to go by, and everyone knew it before the season because it hasn't changed. But at the same time, from a common sense standpoint, Tom, it's kind of hard when you're looking at teams that have the same exact record, like Moorhead and Mankato loses to them on their home field, and Moorhead kind of has their way with them throughout the day, with Jack Strand and company, and yet they don't make the tournament. From a common sense standpoint, it doesn't feel right, does it?
It really doesn't until you dig deep into the numbers that you've been uncovering for us the last couple of weeks. And I assume a 3-loss Truman State team had some pretty good numbers on the strength of schedule line and in the KPI.
Yeah, and you know what? Truman has only 2 losses in Division II. One of those was to Drake or whoever it was at FCS. So they're a little bit different on their route to that. And as we go ahead and we kind of look at everything in totality here, Upper Iowa loses to Indianapolis in a very tight game on Saturday, which only solidified Indianapolis, but put Upper Iowa in a spot where they were in a tiebreaker situation with Truman, and Truman blasted them earlier in the year. So, those all those other spots kind of figure themselves out. Now, the thing that the Augie situation with only 2 losses, Tom, their strength of schedule. This is not a new topic. We've kind of looked at it throughout the year, and no fault of their own, they did not get scheduled against either Moorhead or Duluth, who ended up being 2 of the stronger teams in the conference. If you don't get those guys on your schedule, that means that you're going to be playing teams that have a lower record. It's going to hurt your strength of schedule. So each year, teams are going to have to kind of be ready for that because not everyone's playing the same schedule in the NSIC, Tom. So those things are happening at the same time. There's people who are looking at Duluth saying they're the outright conference champs in the Northern Sun, and they're heading on the road, and they're playing a second place team in the GMAC, and that's Ashland, and they have 2 losses, but Duluth's going to play there. Well, this is once again not a new thing. We saw Ashland had a sky high strength of schedule coming on in, and that's kind of how we land here because their numbers flat out end up being a fair amount higher than Duluth's. And, we have 2 teams from the Northern Sun, Tom, on the road.
Yeah. Would you repeat for our listeners the description of how you've said that Mankato has made its way into the playoffs the last 2 years?
The old reference I have, they've fallen down a manhole backwards into the arms of Brooke Shields.
That's a dated reference. Update that to use the name of Sidney Sweeney
there you go,
or somebody like that. Okay.
I still like my reference. You keep trying to change it. I got people like Laker in the comments. They got my back on this, but let me ask you trying to go the opposite direction on me. I like that.
Yeah. Let me ask you here. You followed Division II football as close as anybody outside of the name of Chuck Bittner, I think.
Yep.
Duluth's chances on the road in Ohio against Ashland, and also in Ohio on Saturday, Minnesota State Mankato at Findlay. I did a quick cursory look myself. These are a couple of good defensive teams they're playing. They're not offensive powerhouses. Yes. Duluth
these
and
all the same style of football, Tom.
Is it?
It is smash mouth. Okay. And Findlay is a top 10 defensive team, maybe in top 5 in Division II defensively. And the way they do things offensively, I mean, you talk about a schmaz. I mean, they are not trying to be high flying. They're not doing any of that. And they're going to be trying to run the football and play strong defense. And Ashland is much the same. So it's an interesting thing that we have basically 4 teams that have a similar way of going about things. But I think Duluth is a little bit more is the difference here because Duluth is a lot more explosive in the passing game, in my opinion. And they also have a quarterback who is a difference maker in this bracket, in my opinion. So I like Duluth going to Ashland and winning that ball game with Kyle Waljasper and company. I think their defense is physical. And at the same time, I don't know. I feel like Duluth just has a lot more. They're a lot more explosive offensively than what I've seen from Ashland. So I favor them in that game. Now, in the other game, I've got Findlay over Mankato because Findlay is one of the best run-stopping teams in the country. And Mankato right now is just not doing much in the passing game, Tom. And I just have a real fear that the +1 run game, that's going to be hard to go ahead and have and live that way against Findlay. For my own selfish reasons, Tom, I would love for the Mavs to prove me wrong and for the Northern Sun to go 2-0 this week. But that's real candidly straight shooting how I see it.
I tend to agree with you on the Duluth call and would feel much differently about Mankato if the Mavericks had Maximum Sims and Trayshawn Watson still.
Oh, a
in their
totally different
offense.
ball game, Tom. Totally different ball game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. You're the expert. We'll see if you are correct.
Let's take a look, buddy, at kind of what people are tuning in, going, okay, are they going to do a playoff show? Well, Tom, just so everybody else is clear, we did kind of mention this last week. We're going to do a quick unpack of the last week of the season, and then we're going to do our awards. And this will probably be a little, not quite as long as the others, because we're not going to pick all the Northern Sun games and go through all that stuff. So let's go ahead and start, Tom, by you unpacking a little bit of your day at Concordia St. Paul.
It all started at the upper right corner of your screen there. That's at the Embassy Suites in Bloomington parking lot there. The little offense run through before we got on the bus and head over to St. Paul. And we camped and walked across the street. I don't know, is that Hamlin Avenue there maybe? And then
I saw on Twitter there that you were having barbs with the Southwest was catching strays from you here on the tweets, huh?
Well, somebody made a comment about that. That Jerry Fury, the PA announcer over at Southwest, made a comment about the window. Kind of.
I know you couldn't just leave good enough alone. You had to roast them. I understand.
This is a good vantage point. You don't even have to get up to look out your window to see a scoreboard or to see the entire field. Yeah, that thing in the middle is a little bit of an impediment, but I enjoy the viewpoint. And Josh Deere does a nice job of hosting you at Concordia's Seafoam Stadium.
Good man. Agreed.
There's the crew. That's sideline buddy Chad Berger, who never met a selfie he didn't like. Tim Hyatt,
but yes.
And yours truly on the right. The booth was welcome for Tim and I because the wind was howling on Saturday. It was in the low 50s, but it felt like low 30s, I think, thanks to a northwest wind at 25 miles an hour.
I did not realize it was quite that bad. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, buddy, let's head into the games here, and we'll get to yours here momentarily.
This was the one of the games of the day that had bearings on the postseason or potential bearings. Minnesota State Mankato at home could not contend against the legs of Jack Strand. Oh, and Strand also threw for 3 touchdowns, but the guy had a 100-yard rushing day, and he guided the Dragons to a win on the road at the Blake.
Yeah, I was watching this game, Tom, and interesting to see the strategy that Moorhead utilized. They early on, you could see when the Mavs were rushing 3 guys and sitting back with 8 in cover, that there was plenty of room to move, and Moorhead anticipated this and did a really nice job of running Strand pretty frequently. And these were not just kind of off the cuff runs. A lot of them were called runs, delays and things like that. I mean, he goes 27 times, and he was almost for 150 yards until the last play of the game where he just ran back and took a bunch of time off the clock and lost about 20-30 yards. But I mean, the fact that he was able to move the chains like he was that way. And I was a little surprised that Mankato didn't adjust to that a little bit more along the way. And he was also able to get, almost 300 yards passing to boot. So you put all this together, and I mean, they were ahead end to end in this one, Tom. And, really, great effort by Moorhead. And, I feel for them because I think Coach Lockway and company have had an outstanding season. Does their resume necessarily look as good as a Mankato as the full resume? Probably not. But you know what? At the same time, teams like this, you cheer for them when they get to this point, Tom, and do this well. And so I would have selfishly liked to have seen them, these 2 guys here, get a chance in the playoffs. But was not meant to be.
These two guys on the left there, that's Jack Strand, number 15. All he did was throw for what?
He, yeah,
3,600 yards this year.
Yeah, and over 13,000 career or whatever it was.
42 touchdown passes this year. The guy on the right, Gage Florence, caught 100 passes for 4 years in a row, over 400 grabs. Man, that's quite the combo. Lethal combination there, Strand to Florence.
I don't think that we will see something like this anytime soon. Maybe I'm crazy, but well, buddy, let's go ahead and move to Wayne. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this one, Augustana needed a victory to solidify its postseason chances. And Vikings suffered a second consecutive loss to end the year. 38-31 was the final, but the game was not this close. A couple of 100-yard rushers for Wayne State. Dawson Forgey, who led the league in rushing, and Brennan Hayes both lit up the Vikings to the tune of, 300 yards on the ground, I believe. And Wayne State finishes with a flourish, but they come up a little bit too shy at the end of the year. A 7-4 record. Augustana closes at 9-2. Wayne State, Witt, they could have been the undisputed champions of the South had they not stubbed their toe against Winona early in the season.
Yeah, and the fact that they're, Tom, where they were middle of the year and where they ended up finishing here, and I mean, they're getting conference championship rings here. I mean, think about that. I mean, with where they were and where they got to here, and it was really the running game and the defense. They weren't able to do much in the pass game, but they had almost 340 yards rushing in this game, and Dawson Forgey, I mean, doing outstanding work, and to go ahead and see how they were beating good teams down the road. And frankly, they weren't really that close a game, some of these. So really kudos to, Logan Masters and his staff about how they did down the stretch. And boy, I tell you, if there was a bowl game to be had, you would love to see a team like this or a team like Moorhead going ahead and getting that opportunity. We no longer have that since COVID, but man, they were not the team you wanted to play down the stretch, Tom.
Nope. Wayne State, man, that running game, tough to beat.
Yeah, and Tom, then we get kind of to unpacking a little bit of the Augustana situation where, they start off the year 9-0, then finish at 9-2. And, Coach Olszewski, I thought, brought up a valid point here in that, getting a 9-2 record and not making the playoffs is that's a tough sell in the room. And but at the same time, we know about how we get to this point. Duluth had it a few years ago when they had a very low strength of schedule. And the Augustana, there's nothing they can do about that. Your margin is thin when you're in those moments.
I harken back to 2014. University of Sioux Falls had the same situation. They missed out and had to go to the Mineral Water Bowl.
Well, back then they only had 6 teams making the playoffs in each super region, so that was even harder.
And they were a 9-win team that year too in the league. Augustana did overcome a lot of adversity. Losing Gunnar Hensley, losing guys on the defense. Man, yeah. Kudos to Coach OJ and the Vikings for going 9-2, but it just wasn't enough this year.
Well, and Tom, I think you bring up an interesting point. When they had Gunnar go down at mid-year, the fact that they made it as deep as they did with 9 wins in this is pretty impressive, all things considered. So still, I know they didn't make the playoffs, but still something that they can look back at and know that they had a strong campaign. With that, we end up having 2 champs in the South, Mankato and Wayne, and then 1 champ in the North with Duluth. And Duluth ends up being our outright champion as well, buddy.
Yep, they went in the league 9-1. The only loss to the Northern State Wolves.
Well, then go ahead if you would and unpack a little bit about their last contest, the regular season.
Minnesota Duluth went on the road to Minot. Not a very easy place to play when you're facing the flex bone. It was early, 7-7, finishes up 33-7 Bulldogs. They, I'm not going to say corralled that offense, but limited the Beavers to just 225 yards rushing, which has got to be close to a season low for them.
Right, right. And I mean, you just take a look at the fact that when you can force them to throw and everything else, and Wall Jasper ends up going for another 150 yards on the ground, 3 scores. Tom, I flipped that game a little bit on today during my lunch, and Duluth has really figured out this tush push thing. They do that really well. So you get the ball down to like the 2-yard line. Other teams struggle in that space because they want to be spread. Duluth just says, okay, we're going to go ahead and try and move the pile forward, and they're really good at it. So, but a heck of a season that they've had here, and I feel like they're coming in very strong to the playoffs, Tom.
Yep, I like their chances as well. This one was a high-flying affair up in Jamestown. Northern had to hold on. Their defense, depleted by injury, allows 40 to the Jimmies, but they did not get minotted. Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that caption?
Yes,
from
I
last
do.
week's
I
slide?
do.
Yeah.
And our guy Tukes is in the comments there, and their offense, continued through the season to be the kind of squad that's going to score a whole lot of points, and at the end of the season, their defense was going to make them score a whole lot of points. Jamestown here ends up getting 40 points in this one, and this was a lot closer game than I think a lot of people may have imagined, but. At the end of the day, the Wolves had another good year. It felt after they had beaten Moorhead, the game that I was at up north, it kind of felt like they really had something special going at that moment. And then the rest of the campaign just kind of ho-hum from there in some of the games they needed. And, they didn't quite get to where they wanted to this season, but they still ended up having what I thought was a good campaign.
Yep, I'd agree with that. It's tough to overcome injuries. A lot of teams,
Yep.
Many teams have to do it, but it sorely tests your depth. There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
Winona State put Southwest out of its misery to end the year. Southwest did get a win this year, going 1-9 on the season, was it? 1-10 on the season, 1-9 in the league. Winona, well, finished above 500, the high water mark for them. They go 6-5 with that victory at home.
And you know what? The fact that they were so good at home really drove that number, Tom. I did not have them. I thought that they were going to have more of a rebuild season. And I think that they were better than that. I think their squad was flat out just better than that. And kudos to them for getting to that mark. On the other side, Southwest, I mean, that's a place right now where they're just having a hard time kind of keeping the guys they want there, and then keeping some of the skill guys healthy. And so forth. And I don't know how you get out of that rut at the moment, but Southwest is, another tough year for sure.
Yeah, Winona's high mark for the season would have been that win over Wayne State back in early October, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
This is the game I witnessed. Sioux Falls up at the half, 20-6. Thought they had it in their hip pocket. Third quarter against the wind. They did nothing. They had 3 yards total offense, while Concordia scored twice. Concordia had 3 touchdowns. You'll notice 18 points. They did not attempt a traditional extra point. They went for 2 3 times and went over. In the fourth quarter, Sioux Falls got the wind, dominated the ball, 12 minutes of possession, scored twice, and put it away.
What, Tom, obviously, I thought Concordia did some things where they gave USF a real scare in this contest, especially the third quarter comes to mind, like you referred to.
I don't know if
And
they gave them a real scare, Whit, because they had short fields. The Cougars
sure.
gave them the ball at the 30-yard line one time, the 35 another time.
Well,
And
that's their special teams.
yeah, there you go. This
So, I mean,
USF special teams weren't very special this year.
yeah, I mean, definitely will need to be an area of improvement for them because if we're not talking turnovers, but we're giving up short fields, that's another story entirely. So, but at the same time, I like what I see from Tate Schaefer, especially USF has, very similar to Northern where and Augustana, like we mentioned. Two teams right there, Augustana and USF, who both had to have basically what looked to be a third string quarterback come on in, very young player, and still expect to perform at a very high level. I thought Tate Schaefer had moments in this game where his passing wasn't good, but then there was also some other times where I thought he made some nice plays, and he's got a certain savvy about him, and he plays more like a junior or senior with the way he goes about things at times, and I thought that was fairly impressive.
He
But
made 4 starts and played the most of 5 games, threw 13 touchdown passes, ran for 4. You're right. He's a savvy signal caller. He did
yeah,
lose a weapon on Saturday. Hank Brown Jr. had more
right.
than 80 catches on the year, closing in on a 1,000-yard receiving season. Caught one ball for 35 yards. At the end of the play, he was tackled and suffered a lower leg injury. And that's another injury that Sioux Falls had to overcome this year. They were snake bit as well by
Yeah, just like Northern State, their defense almost felt like it was a group of twos by the time the year was over. A guy who I don't think gets enough love on the USF side, Bubba Tan, I thought as a running back was one of the better running backs that we don't necessarily talk about all that often, and real good player for the Cougars. And I thought was a kind of an unsung guy for them sometimes this year.
just
But
under 1,000 yards rushing on the year, about 950 or thereabouts for the sophomore from Colorado.
right, absolutely right. But no, I thought I talked to Coach Glow just the other day, and I said, you know what, 7 wins, considering you are on your third quarterback and you are going through as many changes that you had to on your defense and everything else. I thought was a year that you could hold your head up about, and this was not a disappointing year when you throw all of that together. You need to these teams. You need to really take into consideration whether it's Northern, whether it's Augie and others. The injury bug can really hit you, like you referred to, and plenty of the teams in the Northern Sun really saw it hit them. That's for sure.
Yep. All right, Bemidji finished on a high note after an 0 for 5 start, getting Mary at Chet Anderson comfortably.
Yeah, and Bemidji, I thought, really rebounded nicely from a really bad start to the year, and there was a question asked in the comments about the most disappointing team in the league. I think the Bemidji coaches would also say this, that they were. We came into the year, they were a ranked team to start the season, Tom. So, the season kind of played out where they got a chance to get a lot of guys' experience that I think will really help them going forward, whether it's the quarterback position and otherwise. And I think that they frankly need to get better on the defensive side to be anywhere close to what they've been in the past. And they've raised the bar of expectation, Tom, since COVID. And now they're having to live with that and live up to those high expectations going forward. So it's kind of like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. You do really well, then all of a sudden everybody expects you to do that way all the time. So
yeah, that bar gets set high, and sometimes it's tough to reach it.
no doubt about it. But We have this one in here, Tom, as kind of a slide where this is not game related, but it's interesting in our comments, Tom, and I found this very interesting. We had, Dan, for example, makes mention here about how Jamestown did and things like that. And, there was a lot of comparisons to when Crookston was in the league, when Jamestown first arrived. And I'll be honest with you, when I see Jamestown play and how they perform, I don't think of Crookston at all. And I think that Brian Mistro has done a really nice job in a really difficult spot. And they have competed. Realized they only reached the pay window once, but they competed better than their record indicated.
I'd agree with that. And ask Coach Schmidt that too. 46-40 on Saturday at Jamestown. They had all they wanted, Northern State did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, buddy, I'll let you unpack this.
For the final time this year from beautiful downtown Burnsville, Players of the Week for their performances on Saturday, November 15th. For the third time this fall, Jack Strand gets the offensive kudos, the quarterback from MSU Moorhead. What did he do here? I put my sheet over here to the side. 240 yards passing, 3 touchdowns through the air, rushed 27 times for 118 yards. That's over 350 yards total offense, guiding the Dragons to a 31-23 win on the road. Man in the middle there is from Wayne State, linebacker Alex Kowalczyk, 16 tackles. 10 of those were solos. He had 1 TFL, 1 PBU as Wayne State ended Augustana's season in Wayne America 38-31. And Alex's teammate, Boston Hensley, is the special teamer. He had 5 for 5 on PATs plus a 39-yard field goal as Wayne State earned a share of the NSIC South Division title with a 38-31 home victory. They're your POWs for week 11 of 2025.
Tom, it seems fitting that Strand and Kowalczyk were both, awarded here in their last game as collegians. Both of them had fantastic careers. Strand was able to obviously stay healthy and didn't miss almost any time. And, Alex had, some pretty severe injuries. And, he would be like the Brandon Alt of the defensive side of the football. With how long it felt like he was on their roster. But 2 very memorable players there that I really wanted to draw attention to. That it feels like we've been talking about for a long time, buddy.
Yeah, sure feels like it. And guys, you had great careers, but I'm not sorry to see you go. Enjoy the next chapter of your lives.
Funny. Well, go ahead, and if you would unpack a little bit of the standings, any thoughts you had with them?
Not really. I'm going to give Wayne State the championship in the South since they beat Mankato head-to-head. Both of them finished 5-1 within the division.
I agree with that thinking.
Duluth had the best record in the league at 9-1. Augie was second at 8-2. And Duluth had the best record overall of the 14 football playing programs in the Northern Sun with a record of 10-1. Kudos to Coach Weezy and the Bulldogs for a great year.
No doubt about it, buddy.
Your top 25, how did it finish? We have 3 from the league in the top 25 with UMD, the pace setter, in the top 10.
Yeah, no doubt. Duluth, still going strong there in the top 10, and Mankato and Augie still, the voters giving them plenty of respect as top 25 teams, but both kind of near the end of the line. Makes sense that Duluth or that Mankato would be ahead of Augustana given the way that went head to head. But I think that this is a kudos to an Augustana who closes out the year not making the playoffs, but at the same time ends up still finding their way into the polls in the last regular season one.
All right, I'm sure glad I bet you're happy that you don't have to do any more top 25s for the rest of the month of November, huh?
I'm okay with that. We'll do a year end, but that's a little ways off yet.
All right. Boss's Pizza and Chicken wrapping up its commitment to us and to D2football.com here in 2025. We appreciate them for being our exclusive sponsor on a weekly basis.
We're going to need to go ahead and have a conversation and renew our contract with them. I mean, they have no idea how much publicity they get on this show, Tom. I tell you, all the friends and families who watch this and go to Bosses afterwards. But on a serious note, it's been a good partnership for us. We've had a lot of fun with it. And at the same time, if anyone's looking to potentially open up their own, they are all ears. So go ahead, check their website on out and go from there.
And if you just happen to renew the contract for 2026 and beyond, you're going to have to come up with another partner to attempt another pizza challenge, right?
I'm not saying that we're trying to bring that part back, but that was a miserable day, and I was hoping we weren't going to bring that up again, but here we are. So, but speaking of things that I was hoping we were going to bring up,
we finished in a flat-footed tie there, bud.
So I ended up 5-2 this last week.
We both lost Moorhead and Mankato.
Okay, and then so we both lost Moorhead and Mankato.
And then you lost Augustana at Wayne.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay.
Yep.
So we ended up 57-23 after all of this. All of this.
I rallied after a 2-5 performance 2 weeks ago. Your worst performance was back in week 4. You went 3-4. But
so Coach OJ and Augie let me down at the 11th hour. Is that where we're at?
Those are your words, not mine.
Come on, guys. Okay. Well, Tom, we've got the reason that most people are tuning on in is to see our end of the season awards. Now, we teased this a little bit a week ago, and now I'm going to let you go ahead and run with it from here.
Oh, no, go back to that last screen one more time. I just think I just found the tiebreaker. I was the only guy who went unbeaten 1 week. I'm the champ. Tiebreaker.
I know you would never make the rules up as you go.
It just hit me as I looked at the chart there.
Yeah, this will have to be carryover, I guess. Yes.
You won't do it. I got to pat myself on the back.
That's exactly right.
To the next screen we go. As we teased last week, we said we were going to have a recap show and then give our Players of the Year and Coach of the Year honors. And we gave you finalists in each category. Offensively, Kyle Walljasper, quarterback Duluth, Luke Denicky, receiver UMD, Dawson Forgy, running back Wayne State, and then from Minnesota State Mankato, their quarterback Jack Strand and their wide receiver Gage Florence, the offensive players of the year. And I'll lead off with it was a tough decision for me. Very tough. Jack Strand, 3,600 yards passing, 7 300-yard passing games, 42 touchdown passes. He rushed for 5, so he scored or had his hand in 47 touchdowns this fall. His team went 8-3. He had 3,800 yards total offense. It came down to Strand and Kyle Walljasper. Walljasper, 26 touchdown passes, 16 rushing touchdowns for a total of 42. He and Strand were the only guys who had 3,000 or more yards total offense. Walljasper was able to accomplish that in 208 fewer snaps than Strand did. Plus, Walljasper's team went 10-1, while Strand's ball club went 8-3. Both are going to be gone next year, so it'll be interesting to see where the biggest fall off is. So who had the most impact? If you take Walljasper off Duluth's roster, are they 10-1? If you take Strand off Moorhead's roster, are they 8-3? Boy, a tough choice, but I didn't see Jack Strand since 2023 when he threw for 6 touchdowns against Sioux Falls. Kyle Walljasper, after that, ran for 5 in 2023 and then ran for 4 more against the Cougars this year. So he was fresher in my mind. I'm going with Kyle Walljasper as my offensive player of the year.
I was about to make a trip to the John and come back and see if you were going to still be talking, but your guy Berger agrees with you. Now, on the other side, Laker, Scott Strand.
He just saw Strand beat his team.
He did, and there's no doubt about that. Let's not. Walt Jasper did okay against Mankato too, but it's fresh in his mind. I would agree. You know what? I started tiptoeing up to the thought about Forgy, but you know what? I can never put a running back in terms of the positional importance on a level playing field with the quarterback. And running backs, I'll take all the arrows. That's fine. I can live with this. But he that's how much great I thought he had of a year and how he came on. That said, if Jack Strand played for a team that was under 500 and didn't feel like they were as relevant in either the divisional race or national picture or other things of that sort, it would be one thing. They were an 8-3 ball club this year and were they were in the conversation at the end to make the playoffs, and some people could certainly make a case that they could have very well been in it. I'm going with Jack Strand here. I don't look at this as a career thing. I look at this really as he had another outstanding season, and I love Kyle Walljasper and what he can do there. I thought Strand was simply outstanding. And I don't know, Tom, if we have seen a better quarterback in the Northern Sun since you and I have been paying attention for the last, 10, 15 years, whatever it is.
Heartland Hill Trophy is the D2 equivalent of the Heisman. Are both in consideration in the conversation there, do you think?
Absolutely. I think Strand, frankly, would be a top 2, top 4 type finalist. Curtis Allen, running back from Virginia Union, rushed for over 2,200 yards and scored almost 30 times. So I have a feeling that he's going to be right at the front of that conversation too. But these guys are both of them very, very, very strong candidates for that.
Did Virginia Union make the postseason?
What's that?
Did Virginia Union make the postseason?
Yes, they are a 3 seed out east. So, yep. But, yeah. So, I mean, Tom, I think this is a great conversation we're having about this. And now, just for our viewers, the Northern Sun will normally release the coaches, or basically the awards that they give on out. This they're all conference and the things that they do that. It comes out about Wednesday-ish?
I think so.
Okay. So we're just kind of giving our thoughts out. And then obviously the coaches will have their own version. And these two have nothing to do with each other. So just to be perfectly clear. But let's go ahead and move us to the defensive side of the ball. And I'll let you go there. I'm assuming you've got quite a bit documented ready in the holster for this.
The 5 finalists from SMSU, Parker Knudsen led the league in interceptions. From Augustana, Logan Leonard, he was the heart and soul of the Viking defense from his secondary position. Wayne State linebacker Jess Kirchel, not Alex Kowalczyk, but Jess Kirchel. They were a 1-2 punch until Kirchel was injured late. Mojo Wirtz, the 54 on the right, defensive lineman from Minnesota Duluth, was second in the league in sacks. And 54 in maroon or red in the middle there, Jake Adams, the Northern State linebacker. Now, this is going to be an unorthodox choice, but had this guy played the entire year, I would imagine he would have had the tackle lead in the league by about 50. He was that dominant when he was on the field roaming from sideline to sideline. My choice for defensive player of the year. And when he went out, and it made a huge impact on the Northern State defense. Jake Adams, the linebacker of the Wolves, is my pick for defensive player of the year.
I'm glad you picked him because while I knew I wasn't, he is very, very deserving, and he has been outstanding, and has been a heart and soul guy for their defense, frankly. And I can't say enough about how he's done. And this was a team that wasn't bad defensively until all the injuries hit them almost all at once. And then they kind of had they got real leaky defensively. So it kind of speaks to all of that. I was kind of between two guys myself. I was looking at Logan Leonard, who frankly was a better football player than I understood. And watching him this year, the amount of plays that he broke up for them in the back half, and the way he can help out with their defense before he ends up getting hurt against Mankato, a week ago. He was better player, flat out better player than I realized, and had an outstanding season. That said, Jess Kirchel is the guy who I have taken because I was extremely impressed with the fact that after 8 weeks, he's on the best defense in the conference. He's got over 80 tackles. I think he had 12 TFLs, and was really a big piece of what they were doing. And he's come on over the course of time here, and I really think that he's a really strong player. In a group here, Tom, that I think is a strong group of 5. So that's how I went with that.
No argument from me.
We are not done yet. We still have a little bit left. And I think people will be interested to see where we go on this, buddy.
The 4 Coach of the Year finalists, in our opinions, were Shan Schillinger, University of Mary; Jerry Oshevsky, Augustana University; Kurt Wiese, Minnesota Duluth; and Steve Lockway, MSU Moorhead. You're going to go first on this one.
You know what, Tom, I like the way you're unpacking your thought process on each one of these, even if I give you a hard time, because I'm going to give you a hard time either way.
I know you are. I pick on me.
And you know what, Berger trying to kind of jump on in here and, stay on topic for a moment, Berger. But maybe we have a surprise, kind of up our sleeve there. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead and let's handle this first. And I want you to unpack. I liked your thought process on this one more than the others.
All right. I went back and took a look at my preseason picks, how I thought teams would finish this year. I had Duluth losing 1 game. They lost 1 game. So Kurt Wiese was right where he should have been. I did not have MSU Moorhead going 7-3 in the league, 8-3 overall. So Steve Lockway's team outperformed my preseason prognostication. Same thing with Coach OJ. I didn't have his team being 9-0 at one point and finishing 9-2. I think I had him at 7-4 for the year. Coach Schillinger, his ball club, I didn't have him winning a game in my preseason outlook, and they finished with 3 victories. That's a marked improvement in my mind, but his team did not compete at the level to get a postseason accolade in my mind. So, yes, Dan Brookins, Mary did make the biggest improvement, but the bar, they started quite low.
Yep.
That having been said, it came down to me, Coach OJ and Coach Lockway. Coach Lockway had Jack Strand all year. He had Gage Florence all year. He didn't lose anybody that I'm aware of who was a major impactful player. Augustana did. Their quarterback, several guys on defense, still finished 9-2. my coach of the year in the NSIC for a second consecutive year, Jerry Olszewski.
I like it. And I like the way we're going about this. I know everybody else is just whoever's the best, you award it and all that kind of stuff. Now that said, I agree with you, and I think that all four of these guys did a really good job. And you know what, I keep coming back to, if Augustana would have made the playoffs or even gotten to the point of 10-1, I would have also had Coach OJ as well, no doubt. But with since the last 2 weeks the way they did, we're looking at the entire season. I'm gonna fall just short of doing that, and I am gonna go with Kurt Wiese. Let me tell you why I am. Not just because they're 10-1. When I saw them with my own eyes at Sioux Falls, they blasted USF, and USF was not a bad football team this year. And that was a very one-sided game. I can't remember the last time I saw that type of like UMD play that well in person, and I think that they have a great team this year. And I'm going to go ahead and go with Kurt Wiese with what they've created this year, coming off a year ago, Tom, where they were losing all the close games, and this year that didn't happen.
All right, save this next slide. Do not go to the next slide.
Do not. I won't. I will not
until we unveil who the special teams player of the year is.
Don't worry, we will in a minute. Berger lobbing insults there from in the distance.
Now I expect to be picked on by you, but Berger, come
That's
on,
right,
man.
I know.
Sideline buddy. All right.
Coach Cass guy comes on our show and razzes you. I kind of like this.
Yeah. Okay. You left this choice in my lap. Witt does not care for special teams. He thinks it's a schmaz. He doesn't have anything to do with the special teams. So he said,
I just don't invest a lot of time in it.
Okay. He said, you come up with the special teamer of the year.
That's
all right. I did. This guy was a dual threat kicker and punter. Didn't miss a point after touchdown. 45 for 45. That's saying something. He hit 2 out of every 3 field goals. He finished 8 of 12 on the year. And he had a big leg. We'll see on the graphic how big a leg in just a moment. Come on, I'm not done.
You led that right on in. That's my lead.
He had a 57-yard field goal. He also punted for the first time this year as a collegian. Jake Pacina of Augustana led the league in punting average, 42.9 yards per kick on 48 punts. He had 13 kicks of 50 or more yards, a long of 68. Augustana's Jake Pacina is my special team player of the year.
I can't argue with that at all. I thought he was a weapon for them offensively. I really do. And I don't say that very often about kickers. So I totally understand where you're going with this, and it makes a whole lot of sense to me. So, yeah.
And I guess, Berger, I'm a homer for Augie. Picking their coach and their kicker/punter as performers of the year.
Thank you for tuning in for the Augie Awards. hosted by the Samurai Tom Frederick.
Hey, you're going to be looking for a new co-host next year, I think, if you keep this up, Bob.
Well, you know what? We have never done this before, Tom. The end of the year awards. I like it. I think it adds a little bit of flavor to this. You know what? Maybe next year, you can keep the special team award, and maybe I'll have some Witt awards for all Witt players. So, some guys that I am sad to see go that I've really enjoyed watching over the years. Maybe we'll add that to our mix next season.
Sounds like a plan. I've enjoyed my time. I can't believe we started back in August. Here it is, November, and my work here is through. You've still got to work a little bit longer before the season is over, but it's been a joy to work with you. Sometimes it's been a chore to work with you, but it's always been enjoyable.
Well, good, always good working with you, buddy. And I really enjoyed this season, and this is a great way for us to end it, I think, as well.
And one final word, Texas Roadhouse. Here we come on Witt's Tab.
We can do that. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in all year long. And you know what? Go Northern Sun in the playoffs.